I'm Dr. Akeranda Smith. I'm a life coach, professor, and a thought leader. Hi, I'm Dr. Ike, and welcome back to my channel. And we are celebrating Pride Month. June is Pride Month, and last week I shared my coming out story because I thought that it was very important for me as a Black and queer individual to pay respect to something that is a part of my identity. And for a lot of people that identify as LGBTQIA+, we have an initial coming out, but we often come out multiple times in our life. And so I thought it was very befitting for me to share that and share my story. This week, I want to talk about how people that identify as LGBTQIA+ experience multiple abandonments throughout our life. And one of which is because of religion. And for so many people who are heteronormative, they may experience multiple abandonments by maybe your parents got a divorce. Maybe your parent was present, but they were absent. Maybe they were neglectful. Maybe they were struggling with addiction. All of those are various forms of abandonment within your family dynamic. In my experience, being queer, in addition to all the other abandonments I experienced, one of my abandonments that was the most challenging was being abandoned due to religion. I grew up in a very religious family, and it was understood without a shadow of a doubt that being anything other than straight was not accepted. You were going to hell. It was unacceptable. God was not pleased with you. It was the greatest sin. As soon as I came out to my mother, she abandoned me because she could not reconcile her beliefs and her love for me. Because what people don't realize is that religion is rooted in control. And for a lot of Black children who identify as LGBTQIA plus and who are just heteronormative, our parents raise us with control. They possess us. We don't just become their children, we become their possessions. It is like, this is my child. You do as I say. And so when you now tell your religious parent that you are the very thing that goes against everything they believe in, you're like an abomination to God. And so for me, I knew that I was a disappointment to my mother, to her beliefs, because now she had to now look at herself and say, well, what do I really believe? And a lot of times people don't want to do that because that requires you now dealing with not only what you believe, but how you were indoctrinated. And unfortunately, for a lot of Black families, they don't want to let their parents down. And to tell your parent that your religion is flawed is to tell them that so is their parents' religion. And my mom, I understood that she had an obligation to her religion and to her parents' religion. And so for me to tell her that despite what you believe, that I didn't believe in it and I was going to do everything that went against what you believed, it enraged her. But I also knew that that was my mom's work and that was something that she was going to have to work out. And it wasn't for me to work it out, even though I grappled with it for many years. I wanted to work it out for her. And a lot of my choices were hinged off of my shame about disappointing her. Remember, I told you we come out multiple times in our life. So for me, even though I came out at a young age, when I began to deal with my mom and her religious beliefs and only in being an only child, feeling abandoned and not having anyone I felt that I could count on, I went back in the closet. And I'm not saying that my mom was the reason that I went back in the closet, but me needing to feel enough and feeling like I needed her acceptance made me put myself back in the closet. And so I did. And I went and I married my kid's father. And the unfortunate thing about when you don't do what instinctively is true to you and you know it to be true to you is that you make a lot of mistakes and you bring a lot of people into your mistakes. Because of that experience, it has made me abhor divorce. Not because I don't know, I don't realize that it is a natural thing in life. Sometimes things don't work out. But for me, I realized that I didn't have to get a divorce. Like that was a part of my journey. I've learned many lessons from it. But it was because I needed to measure up to my mother's religion. And when you feel like you need to measure up to someone's beliefs, their religion, you inevitably abandon your own self. And so, in addition to my mom abandoning me because I was queer, I then turned around and abandoned myself. So, you can have multiple abandonments in your life, not only just from the people that you love and that love you, but you can turn around and have a choice that you can make a different choice that will free you, and you will literally abandon yourself because you want to fit into the scope of what someone expects of you. And I did. Immediately when I married my kid's father, I knew it was going to be a long journey of me realizing that I had abandoned myself because I needed to fit into my mother's religion. And I didn't need to fit into her religion, but I felt like I did. And because I felt like I did, I knew that I was going to have to contend with that. And for many years, I was miserable. And to make matters worse, I married someone who was ultra religious and ultra conservative. So I was hit on all sides and reminded on every hand that what I was doing was wrong and what I had did prior to meeting my husband was wrong, and that you're to never even be around things and people that are anything other than this, whatever that was. I struggled. It made me live a very troubled life. And because of that, I acted out, and I acted out big. I acted out in my marriage. I found ways to explore my sexuality within my marriage because for me, it wasn't about disrespecting my husband or my marriage. It was about I have clearly abandoned myself, and therefore I've got to find a way to make sense of this. And so I began to act out. And it wasn't until I was able to look at myself and forgive myself and accept who I was that I was able to get a divorce and then begin to heal and actually live the life that I should have always been living before I put myself back in the closet. So when we don't accept our children, we create a chasm in our lineage that literally disrupt the natural path that they're supposed to be on. Because if anybody knows anything about birth order, I am an only. So I came to disrupt everything that my parents believed. And I've done a damn good job of that on this side of my life. But it took a lot of courage to do it. I'm very grateful that I was able to work through and grapple with all of the things that I was so uncertain about in order to get to a place that I no longer abandoned myself again. Not even for my identity. So that allowed me not to take certain jobs, not to do certain things, not to have certain friendships, not to even be a part of certain organizations. Because if I couldn't show up as my authentic self, there was no reason for me to even be a part of that environment because it would have gone against everything that I believe in. What I would like for you to understand is that everybody is trying to figure out something about themselves. It may not necessarily be their identity, but they're trying to figure out how to be their most authentic self. And if you have a child or a family member and you know that they might be struggling with their identity, and for whatever reason that you can't be the safe space for them, do them the favor to let them find the safe space that they need rather than penalizing them for you not being able to be courageous enough to accept them. So, I would love to hear about your experience with religion as you have been navigating your identity, and what have you learned about being abandoned and also having abandoned yourself. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.